What is up? What is up, everybody? We appreciate you guys for joining us here on this Friday, this Halloween, October 31st. It was a crazy week in the stock market. We had so many earnings. It was a magnificent week of earnings with 5 out of the 7 Mag 7 reporting earnings this week. And we are really lucky to have the amazing, the wonderful Dan Ives joining us on the live stream today. Dan, he is over at Wedbush. He is what is the correct terminology for your role at Orbs? Chairman?
Yeah, because I'm chairman. So I'm chairman of the board at Orbs.
Chairman of the board at Orbs. We'll definitely talk about that a little bit here. I'm excited to talk more about that. And then what is the correct terminology for over at Ives, which, by the way, the Ives ETF crossed over 1 billion of assets under management. So congrats to you on that.
Thanks, man. It's been great. Obviously less than 5 months. Look, I mean, to me, it's like the whole reason we launched it is that like investors around the world would have the ability to play the theme with who I view as the winners. And it's been great.
Yeah, I am excited to talk through. We are on live stream, so we can share some of this stuff. But I want to jump right into it. It was a crazy week of earnings. We had 5 out of the 7 Magnificent Seven reporting earnings. We have Apple at 270. Honestly, I would love to start on Apple if we could. They did report earnings yesterday. I know there was an initial move lower on some weaker China revenue, but it was explained away as some of the supply problems, and they guided towards 10 to 12% revenue growth next quarter in Q4, or I guess this current quarter in Q4. So we are signaling for a very strong holiday season coming up here. I wanted to get your thoughts on these Apple earnings. I did see you went in and raised your price target up to $320 from 310 this morning.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Uh, I mean, look, China is now going to be a talent. I think that's what, look, the biggest thing when it comes to iPhone 17, it's almost like a surprise upgrade cycle where no one expected it would really sort of look like this from a pent up demand perspective. Because if you look at the last few, I mean, it's sort of been disappointing, right? So iPhone 17 now looks like you'll probably be 235, 240 million units, maybe 250 when it's all said and done. And that was never in the cards for Apple. So that's clearly positive. There are services that continues to just be rock solid, mid-teen growth. But look, the main thing you're waiting for in Apple is now setting the stage, the drum roll for what's going to be the Google AI partnership. I mean, that that's really like how you get to like a $400 stock is there.
Are you impressed with how strong Apple has held up and just continued to move this year? I feel like retail doesn't look at them as innovators, right? I've got the iPhone 15 Pro and I feel fine. I don't feel any FOMO to go get a 17 or anything along those lines, but the stock continues to move up. There's been slight innovations. I think the new AirPods are great, right? The system keeps people in, but it really feels impressive, the revenue and the
I'd
continued movement in the stock.
I'd
It's
imagine that
yeah.
Apple's the one you get the most pushback on from when on X and stuff that people
Yeah, of
are like give
course.
you the most hate
Yeah.
on.
Look, New York City cab driver has been bearish in Apple. So but look, it's 2.4 billion devices, 1.4 billion iPhones. I mean, that is the separator. Because that services business alone would be a $2 trillion company. And I think that's the thing here is that like it's one where they've been on the outside looking in AI, it's been massive disappointment, and you're still at 4 trillion. But it speaks to my view with that install base, specifically also on the consumer AI piece. That's what you're playing for now. Like if you want to like you could get to like let's say 300, 305, 310, no AI. But to get this thing to $400, it's AI.
Do
It
you
was
think they have
interesting that
to?
they actually showed. Sorry, Evan. I was going to say it was interesting that they actually showed growth numbers coming in this report yesterday. The double-digit growth coming back.
Dude, that's I mean, it's 200 bips above street. And that's why like these are ones too like knee jerk reactions and like the way like we like to think about things. A lot of times I think it's the street when you start to digest things, you feel better and better about the story. I could tell you, like today, talking to like institutional investors, this is a much different narrative for Apple than it was 3 months, 6 months, 9 months ago. Because also, it's like, look, the haters hate. They try to scare everyone based on like in terms like demand. I mean, I just got back from Asia for what, 3 weeks in Asia. The point is like it's been a significant uptick from what we've seen. Apple supply chain, and you saw it in numbers relative to their guidance. But again, the whole key with this stock, it's just like Tesla. What's going to drive it is it's AI. I mean, that's what you're holding on to here, and I'm just very bullish in terms of the setup.
Do you think, well, this will be the last question on Apple, and there's so much other to talk about. Do you think Apple needs to change its M&A strategy and maybe make a
Of course,
large AI acquisition?
look, it's been major strategic mistakes that they've made not doing acquisition. I mean, they could have bought Perplexity. They could have bought a lot of but it's part of that DNA, like not to do deals, right? I mean, biggest one they ever done was Beats, 3 billion. But guess what? Like now they have no choice. Like Google has to be the all-in partner, and also for Google, remember 20 billion a year. That's probably gonna be 30 billion. In terms of because now the DOJ by winning DOJ, it clears the road for them to now do a deal.
You were talking about you being on the ground over in Asia. I was seeing there's a lot of videos of Jensen Huang. He's over in South Korea right now. Obviously, we know the president was out there as well. But Jensen and NVIDIA is signing a bunch of deals over in that part of the world. I'm curious on, obviously, you're going to a lot of suppliers. You were on the ground there of kind of what you're seeing in this AI area and the semiconductors and the kind of NVIDIA part of the market. Obviously, we're seeing the Amazons of the world, the Microsofts, the CapEx numbers from this week are still as big as ever, and these companies are spending metas of the world. I was curious of kind of what you saw on the ground there over the last couple of weeks in China and Asia.
Demand supply it's off the charts. I mean, that's why, like a lot of times when people talk like bubble or this or evaluate, like when you actually like when you see demand and you see what's happened in Taiwan and you see what's happened with the memory players in Korea and you see what's happened in the supply chain. I'm not saying that you can't have air pockets. You're not gonna have macro things that happen or headline risk, whatever it may be. This demand story is probably like a year ahead of where I expected it to be. And that's why, like, relative to like everything we see through big tech for hype, because to some extent the numbers actually exceed the hype. Even Meta, even though you big negative reaction, why is a negative reaction? Because they're massively expanding capex or free cash flow and earnings come down next year. But what does that say about the capex? That's the brains behind the whole AI ecosystem, which is bullish for what I view as this capex super cycle.
I'm really curious on another number or company that ended up reporting earnings yesterday was Amazon, and obviously Microsoft, Google, Meta. I would love to hear your thoughts on them. But one of the things that stood out for Amazon was around AWS and the Amazon Web Services, their cloud division, picking up growth, getting back over 20%. These hyperscalers. I was actually lucky to be at NVIDIA's GTC event, so I
Yeah, I
heard a
saw
lot
you were
of people.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, it was cool. It was a great time. A lot of people smarter than me exploiting stuff and just what you could see is definitely the energy is still as high as ever. And, one of the things they were talking about there is just we're continuing down the cycle of first it was just kind of chat bots and then it's agentic AI. And one of the things they were actually really excited about was, I'm going to switch up my question here. One of the things they were really excited about was physical AI and
That's
that kind of being the next wave.
I mean, look, it's our whole thesis on Tesla. Physical AI, that's the holy grail. And when you think about where everything's heading, like you talk about Amazon, look, the AWS numbers were very robust, but also shows that like Amazon is now starting to get in on that game. Jassy is an AWS guy. The reality is that they've really been on the outside looking in, relative to, of course, like what we see from Redmond as well as Google, like Tom Curry and everything he's doing. But now you're seeing acceleration in a massive cloud base. You start to actually monetize that as more of these workloads go on. I mean, AWS, we think that's probably an increment of what, $60, $70 a share just from that. And then just to piggyback on like what you're saying about physical AI, look, if you have an 8-year-old today, they're not going to need a driver's license. The point is like autonomous and robotics is the future. But it speaks to my view of Tesla. I think Tesla and Nvidia are the two biggest physical AI players in the market.
Question on that. In regards to the robots, I've seen projections of, in 10 years, a billion robots being out there talking with some of the guys from uh, different firms. How does Tesla maintain an edge with so many coming into the market? They're not going to launch first necessarily, right? We're already seeing some of these other robots coming out. Then was it the Neo one who had the video that went viral this week and a couple of others? So what do you think is going to be that Optimus edge?
I mean, to me, it's what it always is for it's going to be the scale and scope. No one's going to have their global scale. I mean, like when I visit like humanoid robot factories, like I've been to a few, U.S. as well as in China. So how many like think about production? It's pretty minimal. Tesla is going to own that game. Now again, of course, like 10 years out, a lot of things could change. But I'm just saying the next few years, autonomous, as well as when it comes to robotics with Optimus, it's their game to lose. That's why, look, Tesla is all about that story. Like, you're not playing it for like deliveries in Q4. You're playing it for like how quickly could they scale robotaxis, cybercab production, Optimus production, regulatory roadmap in terms of giving them a more I think favorable regulatory roadmap on the federal side.
Yeah, I'm glad you hit on the federal regulation because to me, that's one thing that I actually want to jump back for just a second AWS about. So AWS, they had that issue a couple weeks ago at this point and basically took down half the internet, it feels like, from one moment. Do you have any concern when it comes to AWS and Amazon of government intervention to try to break them up?
Dude, look at the DOJ thing. I mean, again, there's a better chance of me like batting behind Otani
Yeah,
tonight than government breaking these up. Dude, that's why every time I be like, what about government breakup? I'm like, I mean,
no
look at the DOJ. Everyone was just go back to earlier this year, right? No one would touch Alphabet because AI is killing its business on search, which was essentially the exact opposite. I'm not saying it's not an issue, but search queries continue to be up from all the survey work, and they're going to get broken up. They won that across the board. So it just comes down to from a government perspective, and also now, especially with Trump, I mean, big tech, they're conciliaries, right? Like, I mean, they've never been better positioned. So I don't worry about any of the regulatory for the next 3 years or, well, maybe the next 7 years.
Yeah, that seems to be the mindset of the current administration. And, Trump and Elon have kind of had their tiffs, but at the end of the day, it seems like everybody's just pushing forward, especially into this world of AI. And I agree with it, the physical AI. I think it's those two things meshing together that creates real explosion. That's how you get a $10 trillion company.
But also part of it is that like my whole career going to Asia, okay? You be there, Taiwan, China, then you come back to the US and there's like, you start to realize like just how far behind we are. But now for the first time in 30 years, US is ahead of China in tech because of Nvidia, because of the hyperscalers, because of Palantir. And Trump knows that. And China knows that. Now China has the energy. They have the rare earth raw materials, right? So I mean every US needs China, China needs US. But that's an important part. And that's why I can tell you when I like, globally, like when I meet so many investors, you play US big tech. I also think you could play China big tech and like Alibaba, Baidu, Tencent, some others. but like this is going to be a US tech centric story in AI for the coming years. And once like the trade framework officially got done, Black Swan got taken off, right? And
That
to me, it's a yellow brick road for these stocks to go higher.
that was your note that you put out on Sunday, right? You wrote
Yeah.
about the coverage. Could you break that down a little bit for our audience?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it just comes down to like you needed the trade framework there. That ultimately that was going to be the fly in the ointment. That was going to be the dent. Any sort of like supply chain issues, U.S. China tariffs. Remember, it goes back to where we were in April, and obviously we've come so far to where we are today. But they recognize that. I mean, I've been to DC once every like month, the last like 5 months. I mean, there's a recognition, despite whatever, like, you know, whatever grandstanding, they understand US is head of China, but you need trade deal. And look, and China also knows that they need to back off. The rare earth thing, I think that was a misstep.
Yeah, great points. Evan, what else is on your mind?
I am excited for next week with all of the earnings that we have coming up. There's a lot more of the software names that we have going forward, and there's obviously been a lot of fears at different points on the software side and what
Yeah.
AI is going to do. I'm curious on what you're watching as we kind of switch to the earnings flavor from the Mag 7 off to a lot more of these
Yeah.
software names in the next couple of
Well, I
weeks.
think look, and we talk about it in our ETF, right? In other words, like it's all about like second, third, fourth derivatives. Like 2020, 2024, we could do any meeting or whatever. It's like, dude, own Palantir, Nvidia, Microsoft, and let's go to lunch. Now it's about like the second, third, fourth derivatives. If you look at software, you almost have to split it up. The Mongos, the Snowflakes, of course, Palantir, those are the ones that have been crushing it. Other parts of software, SaaS models, Salesforce, ServiceNow, kind of up and down. They've been sort of under attack, that traditional model. To me, over this week, it's all about obviously Palantir being front and center is the barometer, right, in terms of use cases. But it speaks to my view, like the trillions being spent is now the derivative is starting to play out across software, and I think cybersecurity as well. I mean, and that is really I think what's going to be a focus, going forward.
I want to ask you one more question in this area as well. A little bit different, actually, but energy seems to be a big part in all these data centers, and I'm curious your thoughts. There's a lot of different ways that this market is, being played right now. From nat gas, I know people playing it through the grid and batteries, and even Tesla, but also these nuclear names. I'm curious your
Aqua,
thoughts on the energy. Yeah, they love
yeah.
those. I'm curious your thoughts on the energy side of this play, and if there's opportunities there, or if you think maybe even the opportunities on the use case of are too big that you kind of leave that to someone else, to other players.
No, I mean like let's say in our ETF we have Aqua, G, Vernova, right? I mean the point is like the biggest limiting thing in the US is energy. China is flush with energy, right? That's not an issue. And obviously it takes like 4 or 5 years to build, if you start thinking like nuclear sort of build outs and what that's gonna look like. I think like you are gonna be able to play this to like a number of different ways, whether it's like some of the pure plays, the utilities. I think there's a lot of private companies that will be coming public because look, you need 3x the amount of energy. Today you have 3% of enterprises gone down the AI path. You get to 20%, then to some extent you really start to hit a tipping point from an energy perspective. So I think energy is going to play more and more of a role in this, but my view is like that is a derivative beneficiary, a derivative play on AI revolution.
100%.
One
I cut someone off there. Yeah, I got.
No, you're good. Just a common factor that I'm seeing across pretty much every company that we're talking about, maybe Amazon is a slight exception, is really notable CEOs. We talked about Tesla with
Yeah.
Elon, but it feels like Jensen is moving into almost another category now. And the videos and pictures that are coming out
Anywhere he went at that GTC event, he was swamped. Like there was like so many press Q&As. I mean, I know it's his event, but yeah, he's definitely a superstar right now.
Yeah, I was just wondering how much that factors into how that factors into your models. Is that something that you
Oh,
really look?
100%. Look, man, I mean, there's companies you wouldn't want to coaching your kid's soccer team, and in terms of managing teams, then there's others. If they're flying the plane, you're in 3A, drinking Cabernet and Netflix, feeling great. I mean, the point is like, think about it. Cart, Palantir, Godfather of AI Jensen, what Lisa Souza on AMD, Nadella, the technician. Like you start to go through, like, okay, Jassy, like, is he starting to navigate? Yeah. Like what Sundar's done to Google, what George has done to CrowdStrike. I mean, to me, it's all like you cannot underestimate that. ServiceNow is not where it is without McDermott. Oracle's not where they are without Safra and Larry. I'm just trying to explain, like, in what's happening now, if you look at a lot of these companies, like small, mid cap, misexecuting, stocks down 40, 50%, you can't underestimate how good management teams need to be. And I
So
also just say, like, one thing, like, on like Salesforce, Benioff, which has obviously been like gold standard. Look, this is like a gut check moment for him, right? I believe they'll be on the other side and they're going to monetize it, but I clearly underestimated AI, and now they have to show they can monetize it.
brings me a little full circle to the first topic we were discussing. Is Tim Cook the right guy in your opinion for the next 5 to 10 years?
Look, Cook is he is the right guy. I think he's had to change, and he's gonna have to change because look, talent left Apple in droves. You have an install base that's unparalleled, and that's how they've been able to monetize. But either it's through M&A, major partnerships. He's gonna have to cheat, or like we'll call it tweak his strategy to get Apple through this AI era. And I think that's why he will be the person, but he's gonna have to evolve as well because you can't just use the playbook that got you there.
Yeah, it's different for him, I guess. Suppose he moved from that operational role, and that's who he's been, right? He's been an ops
He's a
guy.
supply chain legend, a 10% politician, 9% CEO, unbelievable. But it comes down to like AI error. Remember, Apple gets 300 without AI. But you're playing it for like, how do you really have the massive move? How do they own consumer AI? Remember, people are going for them. Look what Meta's doing. You know, just think about like what OpenAI and Sam's doing in terms of some of the partnership, and the Johnny Ivy deal, and some others. So
Yeah,
like, you have to step up on it, and I think it's just something where Google is going to be the partner. It's like, to me, it's like a de facto
interesting. So it's done deal in your mind.
done deal. It's just a matter of when they announce it, how they announce it, and what the timing is going to be.
Put that on the billboard. I like that. Very interesting. Evan, I know that we've got about 7 minutes
Yeah.
left here. What else did you want to touch on?
I want to talk about Orbs.
Yeah.
We started this at the start. Dan, I know you are the chairman of the board of Orbs, ACO Holdings. This is a WorldCoin treasury company. We haven't gotten the chance to talk about this
Mhm.
at all. So I'd love to hear just your initial thoughts on it, like what WorldCoin is, why online ID is important. Just I'd love to hear
Yeah.
your thoughts on the project.
No, thanks. Look, I mean, the reason that I'm doing this and I'm so excited about doing it, I'd say more excited today than even before launching the transaction. It's like my view, like WorldCoin and what they've done in terms of on the orbs and digital, what's essentially, what I view as sort of iris scanning identification that's really going to be a single sign-on in AI future. I mean, the reality is that this is much more of an AI tech company than a DAT crypto. Now it's through a crypto because it's WorldCoin. That's everything Sam Altman's built along with Alex. But the reality is, like, in the future, you're gonna need human proof authentication. You have bots. You're gonna have robots. Just think about the few. I'm not talking about the next month. But where it's going, I'm a true believer in what they're doing with World, in the device they've built in terms of orbs, 17.5 million today. And I think more companies are going to go down this route as well as they go down AI, right? And to me, that's what makes it so exciting. I think especially what you see with like so many of the dabs and so many of the cryptos, it's obviously just based off the coin. This is really utility. And that's why look, I mean Tom and Bitminer invested in it. We had the pipe and a lot of investors are super excited about it. But to me, it's really about the future. I don't think AI reaches its height without true, what I think, human proof authentication.
Why do you think this is the right version of
Mhm.
human? We sit on all these social medias and complain about bots every single day. Now there are literally humanoid robots coming soon, and the way that's going to
Yep.
advance so quickly, like clearly this is something we're going to need to do. I'm curious on why you think the orbs, the retina scanning, all that stuff is the right version of it.
Well, first off, it's the most private out there in terms of secure. I mean, it's on the order for 10 seconds and then it's in your phone. Only you get it. I mean, there's 8 billion in theory, but this is from a data privacy perspective. Everyone has an individual code basically to their eye. Two, the technology is years ahead of what anyone else has has built. Now, obviously, there's Clear and anyone that uses that, but that's essentially static. If you look, the apps and the amount of people that are going to be in the network, I mean, we think it's going to be 100 million next year. So they've developed the technology. Remember, this all goes back to like Sam Altman's view going back, years ago, is that this is going to be the future. And my view is like, look, we were just in Japan, like the second biggest advertisers using it. How do they know if their advertising is reaching Dan, Jane, or whoever versus a bot? Like in terms of like identification, like we announced a thing with Kraken. Like, how do you know, like if me and you are transacting on crypto, that who you are, who you say you are? The point is, it speaks to this is going to be more and more of a pain point. And I think it also speaks to like cybersecurity as a broader sector, like in terms of like CrowdStrike and others they get into. Like it's not just about or in terms of the broader view.
I have a couple of quick questions off that. So you mentioned Clear, and their stock's done
Yeah.
not as good, I guess, in the long term, but okay this year. What do you mean by they're static versus yours being dynamic?
I mean, because the goal is like you're gonna have like hundreds and hundreds of apps that are basically built in here. In other words, like it's gonna be an ecosystem. Clear, you basically just go, you sign up, that's your ID, that's what it is. Here, we already have 17.5 million that are in the network. And it basically just got approved in the US in the spring. So you're gonna have more and more companies, social media, enterprise, that basically go down this network path. And to me, like it is gonna be the single sign AI future. The reason that I'm doing it, it's more really to drive this where I believe it needs to get to. This technology in terms of where it plays as a layer in the stack.
Yeah, it kind of feels like the evolution of being able to open your phone with your face, which is just like the most helpful thing ever. And that was verifying that, hey, it was you that owned that phone. And now it's taking that and making that to the entire internet as a
Yep.
form of recognition, right?
That's exactly what we're doing. But as somebody myself that's covered tech my whole career, like I see where it's going. And the reason that I'm doing it is like I am just a true believer to really unleash what I view as like the true AI revolution. You're gonna need a true identification. It's not gonna be through traditional means. It's gonna be this route.
And
And
I guess goes without
sorry,
saying. Sorry, yeah.
no, I was going to ask on the face authentication piece that I was looking into, where a lot of people are worried about their data getting out there and everyone having their fingerprint, all this stuff. But
Of
what I
course.
saw, you guys have are developing where it'll actually take selfies in your own phone or your own device and
Yeah.
then match that up periodically. So it's not like going out on the broad
It's
internet.
not
It's
good.
like
No
what
one
you
has
already have.
access to it. No one has access to the data. And And that's like a big thing that I've had to do is like education, right? Because it's like, oh, you have to educate. And that's why, like, I'm just like, there's no technology that I think is more suited for what they've and the privacy component than how they've built it.
I don't know if this is almost like a bad thing to say, but there's a lot of people, and I'm sure you have them in your life too, that are not only not early adopters, but they're kind of frightened by this technology.
Of
And
course.
they're like, I would never want to use AI for these things. I don't want anything like they were scared of, they're still probably scared of Alexa, right? I don't
Dude,
want
they
to,
don't have easy passes because they feel like they're tracked. I mean, come
and
on.
is it,
Like it's like people like when they're like sitting there like on a line to put like coins in like 1988 style, and they're like, "Oh no, I can't have an easy pass because someone could track me."
well, I
Come
feel like
on.
that's where the opportunity is. There's
Of
so much
course,
opportunity because there's so many people that are still so scared.
I know. So it's
Uh,
like so but look, I gotta go for this client thing, but I just want to say, look, thanks for having me on. All the stuff you guys do, you rock it. And it's just great to go through this AI revolution together. And remember, haters hate, man. When the bears are in their hibernation mode, they can't see AI in spreadsheets.
Can't see
Yeah.
AI in the spreadsheets, Dan. We really appreciate
With
you for
that.
coming on the stream and engaging with us, and we wish you nothing but the best. Obviously, Ives also the Ives ETF crossed over $1 billion of assets under management. You should go check out the website, check out the prospectus, everything they're trying to do
Yeah,
there,
I appreciate
Forbes,
that.
all that good stuff. We appreciate you for joining us. Always a great time, great outfit as well.
See you guys.
We
Thanks.
appreciate
Thanks,
you,
man.
Dan.